Welcome back again to The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines. We have with us an author and a gentleman who's doing a lot for cops. You're an ex-cop yourself. According to my information, you served over 30 years in law enforcement.
32.
That's a long time. Anyway, this is Michael Letts, Letts, and he was good enough to come on our program and to talk about his book and whatever else he wants to talk about.
He's also a chaplain.
Yes, sir. In fact, I was just fixing to mention I'm still with law enforcement. I'm just moving a little slower, and not that I'm willing to say that I'm getting older, but I'm moving a little slower, so the chaplaincy works a little bit better now than the SWAT team does.
Understand.
All right. Let's see. Police. Oh, tell us about before we get on to your books. You're doing something to. You're the CEO of Invest USA, which gives bulletproof vests to police forces around the country. Is that it?
That's correct. I'll give you a little bit of background. What I do for the media, soundbite, shall we say. I was actually grew up in Mexico. My parents were missionaries. I grew up in Guadalajara, Mexico, so I'm very familiar. As you know, Guadalajara is the central for the cartels, southern cartels especially. So I'm very familiar with what's going on the borders now with our cartel situation. Grew up in Mexico. We came back from the mission field. My father was a minister in Florida to begin with. I left, graduated from high school there in Florida and went to Liberty University. Jerry Falwell, of course, senior, he's deceased now, but we called him Doc, and I was captain of the weightlifting team. I was an avid athlete, and I was ex officio Doc's bodyguard. So flew all across the country with Doc. You know, he created the moral majority, and so he had an awful lot of connections all across the country, and that's where and we went to the White House quite often with Ronald Reagan. You remember Ronald Reagan was the president at the time. And then went from there, came back, got involved in politics myself. My grandfather served on the council. You know, every county has a council. And I served on council for 32 years as well. But one of the things in being involved in politics is you have to be out in front of the people. So I was president of a civic group called the Kiwanis Club. We didn't have a speaker that showed up one morning. It was a breakfast meeting. So I called the sheriff early that morning, who was a friend of mine being on council. And I said, can you send me a deputy? I don't care what he does. He can clean the gun. He can run the siren, whatever. Just give me somebody, a body here as a speaker. He did. And in the question and answer session, someone asked him, where's that vest thing that's supposed to protect you? Because we had a couple shootings the week before. And he responded by saying, well, the department doesn't provide them, and I'm only 21 and I can't afford one. So it'll have to wait, either as a Christmas gift or, it'll have to wait till I can put the money aside. I was struck by that. Sent him over to the Rotary Club, had somebody ask him the same question, got the same answer. So I called the sheriff. I said, I don't want to get your boy in trouble, but he says you don't have vests. He said, we don't. Council's never provided for him. Well, I was just getting on the council. I was just starting. So I was young and cocky at the time. I thought, well, shoot, I can take care of that. $500,000, we'll get that appropriated easily. Got it put into the budget. Left. I was out of town for third reading. It takes 3 readings to get an ordinance passed. And my colleagues took it out. So when I got back, I had all these reporters asking me, what do you think about your colleagues removing the bulletproof vest that you had inserted? I said, well, I spoke without thinking. A politician's not supposed to do that, but I did it anyway. I said, well, if they feel that way about it, fine. We'll just raise the money, and we'll provide them as a community ourselves. That was a headline in the papers all across the Southeast, for that matter, the next morning. And, of course, once I said it, I couldn't retract, couldn't get out of it. So I've been trying to find an exit strategy ever since then, but it's not been successful in doing so. We were at the time invest to protect our Richland County deputies. It was how we started. And then once we raised the money and got the vests necessary, I think it was 285 vests is how many officers we had at the time. We have about 700 now. It was about 285 at that time. And anyway, I had a police chief at the town right up the street, 1 traffic light, the old southern towns, 1 traffic light, chief and 2 deputies, or two officers. Said, look, any way possible, you got anything, any of those left over? I don't have any for my guys either, because I had announced this is it. We completed the mission. I was done. It was over. I'm not gonna do any more. I said, you're in luck. I've got 3 extra vests left over. Let me bring them up. Don't want any media. Just gonna hand them to you at your town council meeting, and then I'm done. I'm on my way. Little did I know that he and his partner had an escaped convict had come out on in that town, killed his partner, and shot him 3 times. And so his niece was a member of the Associated Press. And so he told his niece, guess what I'm going to get? I wish I'd have had this when I was shot, because he barely survived. So what does she do? She puts that out on the wire, and there are more media stations there than there are town people, shall we say. And they ran that story across the Southeast, and I couldn't. Of course, I made the announcement that this was it. It was over. Nice ride, but we're done. And I couldn't answer the phone for 2 weeks for all the calls coming in saying, look, can you take on just one more department? Don't care about the other ones, but just do mine. Help me. And so we had to change to become the Invest to Protect Our Law Enforcement Officers, Inc. And we're now national, in fact, international. We've given vests in Mexico and other locations as well. I tell people very quickly before they think, wow, so my money's going to Mexico? Absolutely not. What we do is we provide new vests, the active shooter vests, our officers here, but sometimes there are vests that are outdated or out of warranty that they have left over, and they give them to me because they don't want to put them back out on the streets for the criminals to get. Quite frankly, it costs too much to incinerate them or to destroy them, so they give them to me, so we keep a warehouse full. And when we have requests from foreign governments, we say, look, can't get you any new vests because I'm taking care of my guys, but I do have some used vests that, if you want to sign a hold harmless agreement, it's better to have something on than nothing. I've never had a used vest that ever failed, to be honest with you guys. It's just kind of a technique, I think, from the manufacturing to make sure they can continue to produce more vests. So we've given them all over the world, for that matter. And now what happened with Invest is we started in 1993. Congress took note, passed the Bulletproof Vest Partnership Act in 1996 under Bill Clinton. And of course, everything the government touches, they screw up. I got to throw that in there because that program is a mess now. It's not what it was intended to be. But anyway, about 10 years ago, with the previous administration, of course, open borders, cartel members running across, human trafficking, terrorists coming in, etc. Used to be in the old days, guys, that criminals at least weren't proud of their profession, okay? That's why they took a pistol, stuffed it under their shirt, and then they went in and held up the gas station. Nowadays, the cartels, they're proud of what they do. They don't bring a pistol anymore. They take a long-range rifle, AK-47, 12-gauge shotgun, etc. Well, the vests that were developed when we first started in 1993 were called concealable vests. That's the one you see under their uniform, under their shirt. That will stop every sidearm. It will not stop a rifle round. And so now a rifle round will just cut right through a concealable vest as if they weren't even wearing it. So we had to stop about 10 years ago creating new technology called active shooter vest. And they have titanium plates in them. They'll stop anything. I've run over a titanium plate with an M1 Abrams tank. Didn't bend it, didn't do anything to it. Didn't even know it'd been hit. So I mean, these things, you can't destroy them, so they'll last for life. Now the carriers you wear, obviously, you're going to get kind of tired of them. The way they're going to smell after a while, probably, and the way that they, it's just material will get worn out. You'll have to replace the carriers for maybe 5 or 6 years, but the plates themselves never need to be replaced. And so here's the dilemma that we're in. When we started Invest in 1993, 52% of cops had no protection at all. I was shocked when I started this, guys. We got agencies in this country, they don't even give you a gun. You got to buy your own uniform, buy your own gun and bullets. I mean, I realize they're smaller agencies, but this is what we've been facing across the country. Not everybody works for an NYPD or an LAPD. So we had 52% of cops who had no protection at all. We got that number down to 18%. Then we had the issue coming up with needing active shooter vests. We now are giving them active shooter vests, but 90% of cops do not have active shooter vests. Now, here's why I want you to see how relevant it is. Just the shootings in the last 6 months, the one you saw in the churches, the schools, in I think it was Wisconsin, Minnesota, somewhere along those lines, all over the place. You see the footage. The call goes out, active shooter. You see these officers pulling up. Now they don't know the shooter's already killed himself. They don't know what's going on. They think the active shooter's still there. And you see them rushing in. And if you stop that footage and look for a second, they don't have active shooter vests. They're running in with their concealable vests, and that's it. So if they encounter that active shooter, they're not going to have a very good day. But yet they're willing to do it anyway because that's how much they believe in their job. And so we want to make sure that they get to come home safely to their families. It should be that case. We believe Americans support our first responders. They just don't know how to show it. This is the way to show it. Make sure these guys and gals can come home safely to their families. They have every right to do so.
Yeah, that's what I think. A lot of the public don't think about that these cops do have families. They do have their own families, and a lot of them do have children and so forth. So people don't really look at them as family people in every other profession, which is a shame because they're there supposedly to hopefully to protect the public, at least to respond to danger, if nothing else.
Well, it's interesting. I tell people this all the time, and we do national shows all across the country. It's amazing to me, as long as I've been in law enforcement, that we got anybody that still wants to wear the badge. You had the mainstream media do nothing but try to present the persona that they're nothing but bigots, racists, not worthy of respect. They should be attacked. They should be shot at. You
Yeah.
got your elected officials that are saying, look, I don't even think I want to give you a raise. I don't even think I want to give you your equipment. I'm going to try to cut your budget and just make you work extra hours for free. Then we had those during COVID, you recall, that were saying, this vaccine is experimental, but we don't care. You're public safety officers. You're either going to take it or you're going to get fired. Well, we lost tens of thousands across the country when you did that because I don't blame them. I didn't do it myself either. You're not going to make me as a guinea pig. I mean, And of course, now you realize how grateful we are that we made that decision.
Yes.
But back then, you had some young officers kind of like, man, I got two small ones and a wife at home, and I got to pay the mortgage next month. I can't just quit. And unfortunately, they're facing some serious health consequences because of that. What a tragedy that our government did that to them. It's mind-boggling.
It's kind of interesting because no matter which side you're on, the right or the left, choosing not to take their stab was a deplorable decision.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's I love it, Michael. You're exactly right. But
does it still cost $1,700 per vest now, or has the price gone down?
No, the price has gone down. We get them for roughly $700. But remember, we're getting them wholesale now because we do so many across the country. An agency would probably pay about $1,100 a piece.
Now, you said that the new officers can't afford the cost. Now, is that still an issue, or is that because now it's $700? Is it now within reach, and is production being held back?
Well, you got a number. Great questions, Michael. A number of things. First of all, let's work our way backwards. On production, I'm making sure we get these out of the Buffalo Armory and Shoe Supplies for us now, and I'm making sure it's all U.S. steel. I don't trust China steel. Sorry, you just don't trust it. Unless it's made in the USA, I don't trust it. So there is some capacity limitations as to how many we can produce at a time based on the resources we're getting in. Second part of your question was, has the price come down to where we still have, are the needs not as great? I wish to say that were the case. Actually, it's gone the other direction. You say, why has it gone the other direction? Because of the fact that defund the police movement and so many other things where they're getting less money. Here's what a chief is thinking. I'm not saying it's the right way, but here's what he's thinking. Well, at least I got him a concealable vest. They got something. Something's better than nothing. We'll just hope that they don't get hit with a rifle shot. Well, unfortunately, what you've seen over the last 2 years is the vast majority of our deaths have been with rifle rounds. You realize, I tell people this, we have the highest number of officers killed in the line of duty than we've ever had in history. We're losing roughly 350 to 370 per year. Now, when you start adding that up, that's more than we have lost in some of the conflicts in, Iraq, Afghanistan, other places. I mean, these officers, the difference is these officers face that every day. not just when they're deployed.
Well,
And that takes a huge strain.
this lack of supply, when it could be available, okay, must also assault their morale, because if your higher ups are more interested in putting on a show than they are in actually putting on a vest, then not only are you going to destroy the morale of those that are already there, but you're going to be advertising against the possibility of new hires.
Yeah, you're exactly right, man. You wouldn't believe how many officers, especially now, we have the lowest morale we've ever had in our history. We have the three things: highest death rate, officers killed in line of duty, lowest morale, and this one's a shocker to people. We have the highest suicide rate of officers we've ever had in history. Um, and I get these officers that call me constantly all the time, telling me, what do you advise? What is your outlook? I hate to say it. Well, if there's anything else that you can do that would bring you contentment, do it. Because the current climate is so bad with our law enforcement community that they don't show you the respect and the honor you deserve. Now, that having been said, most of them say, yeah, well, I'm not cut out that way. I want to help my fellow man. I tell them, I say, well, then the second thing to do, find you an agency or an area that, and it doesn't just stay it. I mean, at least in New York City, they say it. They say they don't care for you. They tell you they're going to defund the police. They tell you they're going to cut your job. At least you know what you're up against. You ought to have enough sense to get out of there. But, you go to places, agencies that are looking for you, that respect you, and that appreciate the job that you do. And
Well, I wonder who's paying for the Muslim security patrol in New York City.
I'm so
The
glad you
Emirates.
mentioned that. You are exactly right. Mandani, of course, he met with the president a couple days ago. President and I disagreed on how that should be handled. The president wanted to know my input. I said it should be a short meeting. Tell him to come, welcome him in the door, give him a firm handshake so that he understands what an American handshake is. Set him down, say, is this your naturalization application? Is this where you... Okay, that door right there has two ICE officers on the other side. If you'll go through that door, they'll escort you to the plane and you have a safe trip and don't ever get back. Don't ever come back. That's what I would have done. The president laughed and said,
I
no,
want to
I
vote
think
for him.
the president laughed and said, I think I'll just let him know who's. I
If
said,
the,
well,
if the left was given evidence of a person stabbing, skinning, and debasing a body, they still wouldn't believe that you were right in arresting them. They got the perpetrator. So
Yeah, no, not if it was an illegal doing it. No.
you're exactly right. I mean, and I know I get myself in trouble all the time, but I love getting myself in trouble this way. I
trouble.
mean, Mondani has very clearly said, we not only see a Muslim, but he's very clearly said that it's his intent to not enforce U.S. law, but to enforce international law. And the reason he says that is because Sharia is part of international law. And his intent is he's already got 30 vehicles that are coming that are painted exactly as NYPD vehicles, have the NYPD badge on them. They have a little smaller badge on them that says MYD, which is Muslim police. And he's going to put the first 30 in the precincts that have the most Muslim populations. But he's very clearly said that he will put them in all the precincts in New York over time. And why? Well, it's the same reason you're doing it in Dubur, Michigan, Irving, Texas, and other. They have very clearly said after this 2-3 weeks ago that America is now in the crosshairs to be the next caliphate of the world, and that they will make America a Muslim country either by ballot or by bullet. They're pleased that they've got the ballot so far, but they'll use the bullet if necessary. Well, I don't think America will allow that to happen. At least I hope not anyway. I think most red-blooded Americans have enough will and fight that we're going to make sure.
Yeah,
well, the good news is that they continue to expose their nature. And as they do that, they lose more and more moderates. And they enrage the right. But fortunately, the right is capable of restraint unless otherwise necessary.
I think we're getting about the unless otherwise necessary pretty quickly. The president and I were discussing that he's putting together an executive order to ban Sharia law. I said that's a start. ban Sharia law nationwide, and
That
then
should have
we'll.
been done years ago.
Oh, there's no question. I think it's funny. It's ironic. Most people don't realize this. Up until 1993, I think it was, when Bill Clinton came into office, we had a law, national law in this country. You could not serve in public office, and
Yes,
that was
that was passed in the 50s. That was passed in the 50s.
people react. Why would you say that? If you look at, do you realize the countries that have tried to pick fights with us have always been Muslim? I mean, anytime you have a country that says, I'm going to come to your country and you're going to do what I tell you to do, you're going to worship the way I tell you to worship, and if you don't, you're going to die. What more? I mean,
We've
that
had
is a
trouble with them since
declaration of
Jefferson's
war.
time. Yeah, Jefferson had to send the Marines over there.
Yeah,
You know,
Well, you know what? You have to get together with Pastor Jackson Laymeyer because he was one of our guests and he nailed it. He basically said that the Muslim faith has been at war since 400 AD. So, that's all there is to it. And, house of war, house of peace, house of war, house of peace. If you're not Muslim, you're in a, if that's not a Muslim state, then it needs to become one, and therefore we must go to war with it until it becomes Muslim, and therefore, in their mind, peace. They say they're the religion of peace, but what is the peace? Isn't that the peace of the A-bomb after it's over? It's like, I mean, there are many forms of peace, but that's not the peace I want.
well, I think, Michael, you are represent the vast majority of the American citizens. I think what the problem is American citizens have been way too asleep at the switch, shall we say. We were just kind of content to get along as long as I pay my bills and keep to
so
myself, we're okay. But I think they've realized now that it's been that attitude that has caused all the problems, whether it's dealing with the Muslims, whether it's dealing with corrupt politicians stealing out of our treasury, whether it's dealing with the weaponization of political agencies to come in and to steal our rights and our freedoms. And I think they finally realized this is going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better unless we do.
Isn't it Minnesota that is having those anti-Muslim protests where they're really annoying the Muslims by going ahead and covering the Quran and pork? That's really upsetting.
I love it. I think the other thing that they're doing is, they're going to, because like
this guy.
again, you've got the city councils are controlled. The mayor and all their control, and they're going in and they're saying, look. In fact, I love this. This is one of the things that caused some of the disturbances, shall we say, that occurred last week in Michigan. Was one of the speakers says, I've been researching it, and the vast majority of y'all got here through the H-1B program. Obama. He said he brought in tens of thousands of y'all into this community specifically to create a Muslim community. I'm going to call the president and ask him if he wouldn't send in ICE, because I bet you probably 80 to 90% of those H-1B visas are all expired. Y'all all here illegally, and I'm willing to help pay for the bus to start shipping you out. Oh, and then of course, then they wanted to immediately escort him out, not give him the right to speak, et cetera, et cetera. But that's really where we're at. He spoke to.
Well, there's over $1 billion that was sent from that
1.7 billion.
Okay, even better. 1.7 sent Somalia of American tax dollars sent there, and taken from, was it FEMA?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was telling the president all along when we first get started, they set up a very intricate program talking about the leftists, the deep state is what I call them. Is they created hundreds, I mean not hundreds, thousands of NGOs. NGOs and non-governmental organizations. It's supposed to be a charity. And what they do is they go in and they say, okay, we're going to be concerned about Somalian human rights. They'll make it sound good. And then what they do is congressmen and senators to sit on their board. Now, in my day, if you served on a charitable board, you served for free. You were donating your time. But not these NGOs. They pay anywhere from $500,000 to $1.5 million, $2 million a year per board member to serve on that board. And then, of course, what did they tell these congressmen and these senators? You don't have to go to any board meetings. You don't have to take any calls. When the budget bill comes up, there's going to be a little proviso in there for money for foreign aid for NGOs. We get a part of that. Just make sure you vote in favor of that so that we have the funding to be able to secure all this. And it's been happening for years. And now that we've discovered it, we're attempting to shut it down. And you'd have thought that, you'd have thought we were trying to destroy America by doing that. We're actually trying to save America by saving the taxpayers' dollars from going to all these illegal foreign organizations that are trying to disrupt.
Well, actually, there is a belief that prostitution is the oldest what job or profession in the world, but it's not. It's government corruption.
I just saw where the mayor of Dearborn yesterday or today said that Americans have to Islamicize. They have to assimilate. I'm sorry. We have to assimilate to Islam.
What's amazing, just what you said is what is amazing. They're not being bashful about telling you their intention or what they're planning on doing. Are we that stupid that we don't understand English? You don't understand what they're saying and take countermeasures?
Apparently we are. Well, apparently too many people are.
To be honest with you, if you take them at their word, what they're really asking us to do is to be as vile and miserable as they are. So maybe good advice.
Well, we're going to lead the charge to make sure that doesn't happen. I can tell you that, and I know there's an awful lot of people that feel that same way. And I think
the thing is that what's missing is leadership. The average citizen doesn't know what to do because they don't know if their behavior is right or wrong, regardless of whether they have the inclination, because they've been denying themselves for so long. So they need to have somebody that they trust that will say, okay, listen, now is the time. And the thing is that in Dearborn, Michigan, is it Michigan? We're having the riots and stuff. They're not really riots; they're protests. And the thing is, they got a bunch of good old boys out there that are saying no, and they're not easy to push around. So, the thing is that, and what about Staten Island? The possibility that they're going to secede from New York City.
They've tried before, but they were prohibited from doing so.
Well, they can't be prohibited because they have legal precedents in various cases where
they also have Democrat-appointed judges who will fight them tooth and nail.
I think what you will find is I believe the governor's election in New York has a distinct possibility of going Republican this time instead of Democrat with national. And if that's the case, there's going to be a lot of change and reform in New York. I'm just amazed. Again, I respect the president's position. Let's try to work with Mandani, just show him who's in charge. I like my ID better. Why should I use my efforts for a helpless cause like that? He should have just been deported. And this is what I tell the media. I'm not saying that we're deporting him because what I'm saying is he violated the law. Now, if you go get your driver's license and you look at it, and we find out your driver's license is revoked, he is, just because he is a mayor-elect, does not put him. I thought it was, equal justice for all. And if we have a two-tier justice system,
well, here's the thing. You're proven right just simply by saying, did they not try to arrest President Trump? So the thing is that if you can go after the president of the United States, the mayor has small pickings.
You're exactly right. And this is where I think, honing in on a point you made there, Michael, you're talking about the American people, is I believe the American people are just questioning whether we can do anything, whether there's any validity, because we say we are a nation of law, where we are governed by law, but yet we all know that there's a two-tier justice system. People, the Clintons, the Obamas, etc., they get treated a whole different way than you and I ever will. If we cannot begin to enforce what the rule of law is, then we've lost. And that's what I'm telling the president, that it is so important with our attorney general. I mean, I love, but look, if we can't get, then loose. Find somebody that can, because I can assure you that their actions have violated the law. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. The Constitution gives them the right to be heard, but be tried by a jury of their peers, and so be it. But they need to be indicted immediately and held to the same standard as any other American.
Well, Pam Bondi also screwed up. We got an indictment against Comey. We got indictments against Letitia James. And now, because she appointed the wrong person to bring the indictments, a person who was not vetted by the Senate, a judge threw the indictments out. And now, hopefully, we'll go after them. I believe both of them should be in jail. I mean, if you were on ride to Congress or to the FBI, we'd be in jail, no questions asked. Comey, he's getting away with it.
You know, have you ever seen one of those domino things where you have a whole stack of dominoes and you pop one in? That's how many criminals that we have in government. But the thing is that Pat Bondi has had hits and misses. I don't know why she's made a major failure like that. But the thing is that if they're guilty and if they say, okay, you can't go after them with this particular individual, then can we go after him with another one? You know, so isn't it a delay tactic?
Yeah, but technically, the woman who brought the indictments was not allowed to bring the indictments. Therefore, the indictments have been called invalid.
Yeah, Roy, you're correct. That is what their argument is. The judge that did it is from South Carolina. I know Cameron, and she was a Clinton appointee, so that tells you where her philosophy is. Okay, but what she was arguing was that the charges themselves, she wasn't even analyzing. She was saying that the president appointed this legal counsel from the White House as an interim U.S. But the Senate did not vote on that. Now, where she's wrong, and I'll tell her to her face, is we have appointed Jack Smith. You remember Joe Biden appointed Jack Smith, and he was never confirmed by the Senate because he was interim. The presidency has the right to appoint an interim until confirmation can be done by the Senate. Now, when the confirmation comes up, the Senate just you got to move on. You got to find something else. But they had not taken up her confirmation yet, so I disagreed with Cameron's perspective that just because she had not been confirmed by the Senate, they haven't taken up the confirmation yet. So how could she be confirmed?
That was to protect Comey and Letitia James. That's all.
Become retroactive. Could they confirm her now and then retroactively be back on the case?
Well, what I'm suggesting is because now Letitia James is another matter. She's guilty of fraud. She's just kind of weird. But Comey didn't just do obstruction of justice and perjury. Comey is guilty of insurrection, guilty, in my opinion, of treason. So very major issues. So what I think they need to do is grab us a U.S. attorney that's already been confirmed, add about 10 other charges to it, take the ones that just got dismissed, put them back on there as well, go after Comey. We can do the same thing with another U.S. attorney with Letitia and re-indict. The positive, where I give the president credit, is by having this young lady make the indictments, you stayed the statute of limitations. So we can pick those indictments back up and
Well, I was worried about that. I was worried that the statute of limitations might have run out and we're screwed now.
No, the one that I'm concerned with is that we've got 40 days until the statute of limitations run out for the January 6th co-conspirators. I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi and the rest of them that stage that runs out in 40 days. So they were asking me, is there any hope for that? Do you think we can get indictments within 40 days? I said, what I would like to ask the American people to do is call the president. Of course, he'll be mad at me, but that's all right. Call the president and say, let's do military tribunals. We don't have a statute of limitations in military tribunals.
The pardon, one of the pardons that Biden signed today, Trump eradicated. He rescinded it, and so that's good news. It was for the turkey that Biden pardoned because he had used the auto pen, but the turkey that Trump pardoned today, which is like 2 days before Thanksgiving, that turkey will be let free.
Because he does have his actual signature on the part himself.
He actually took the time out, and he also knew what he was doing.
Well, I think there's only one that is in play, Hunter, that he actually signed, and I'm not so sure he was mentally understood what he did, so that was even a question. The rest of them are all going to be dismissed. They know it. We're going after them. The question is, we have the ability because there's so much evidence, but who's going to have the backbone to do it? And I just haven't seen that yet. And that's where my criticism has been with the administration is we did a great job of setting the table, but we haven't served the meal yet. I think people are hungry. Let's get the meal served to get.
Yeah, the Democrats and through their judges are trying to stall everything until Trump is out of office and hoping that they can get the White House again or Congress and then just make everything go away.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
they're hoping they only have to stall for another year because if they can win the House back in the midterms, that basically shuts down the presidency and he'll be a lame duck for the.
I don't know. I don't think you can keep Trump down.
I have a feeling that after this election just passed, that may help us go against historical precedents, and maybe we can keep the Senate. But we have to get rid of the damn RINOs.
Well,
I can't stand that. I think they're more despicable than Democrats because the Democrats, what side they're on. The RINOs, they make believe they're on your side, but meanwhile they're patting you on the back with little glove knives in their gloves.
I think one of the problems that the conservatives caused was the presumption that okay, Trump's in office, we're done. And the thing is that this past November proves otherwise. That the Democrats haven't given up. They never give up. I mean, that's one of their admirable traits. They will not stop. And the thing is that we have to be somewhat tenacious as well in order to go ahead and counter them. And we also have to be imaginative. We have to ask, well, if I was going to destroy something, how would I destroy it? And because we have to reverse engineer their destruction. So, I mean, and then on top of that, Trump is in the process of repairing. So we've lost some credibility. Like Trump's numbers have dropped 10%. And I think that's because it's like if somebody went with a sledgehammer in your house. It's going to take a while for that to come back. And there may be some rooms that don't have insulation. So we have, first of all, freedom is never free. And vigilance is essential. So especially vigilance is most required when one is most comfortable, because that's when you get hit. Most of the best.
It's because we're so comfortable and so complacent that we're in the situation we're in. And the Democrats are not afraid to lie blatantly like they did about the shutdown.
It's not
15 times they refused to open the government, and they're blaming it on the Republicans.
It's not a true lie; it's a noble lie. Okay, let's get clear about that. It was done for
nothing noble about them.
Well, I think the other thing we've got to consider, gentlemen, is we have to also go after our judicial system. The judicial system is corrupt, and these activist judges are corrupt. They're violating their oath of office. And this is what, in a nutshell, this is what I'm telling you. You don't want to have to worry about delivering for the American people. The American people are concerned about the economy. I will agree with that, but I don't think that's their overriding concern. They see the corruption. They don't see any action being taken. They see you calling it out. They're thankful that we're calling it out, but you're making it worse by calling it out and doing nothing about it.
Yes.
So make sure that we move forward, do diligently with indictments and with trials. I think that's all the American people want. We're not telling the president he has to be responsible for the outcome of the trials. That's not the way this country is founded. This country is founded on a constitution that allows you to be tried by a jury of your peers. But they do expect you to be tried if you've done nefarious activities that we know have enough evidence to.
I
Michael,
think that's where most of the criticism against Pam Bondi comes is people look at her and say, you're not doing anything.
That's something we've discussed. Great rhetoric. She's good on the show. But I'm getting now all across the country I tour all across the country saying, hey, y'all have done a great job of pinpointing it. What you about it? And if you're not going to do anything about it, then quit about it. Because better.
well, the thing is that now maybe Michael, but I don't know the underlying problems in that job. I don't know the corruption that she's trying to get through. I don't know what she's fighting against above and beyond the legal issues. Because
Well,
go ahead.
there's a lot. There's a lot, Michael. Let me be very blunt. People don't understand this. I used to think, oh, you only had 4 or 5 people at the top. You replace those and everything's good. No, they've had this for decades. Okay, so they've hired from the top all the way almost down to the janitor. So just because you bring in new people at the top doesn't mean the people underneath are going to do what you want them to do. They're going to smile at you and say, "Oh, yes, sir, I'll get it done. Yes, ma'am, I'm working on it today." And that's it. They don't do a thing about it. And because it's federal government, I can't just fire you with a snap of the finger. There's all kind of processes that have to go through. Plus, there are former federal employees, former federal officers that still have a lot of clout that are obstructing because they don't want what they did to come out. And there are foreign governments involved with this. I mean, we all know that there have been foreign intelligence agencies that have worked in conjunction with our intelligence agencies that have done very nefarious things in the name of our government. And you've got people that, oh, don't never let the American people find that out. So all of that is working against you. I get that and I understand that. But my response is when I'm asked, well, then why aren't you trying to be a little more supportive? We've given you evidence. Come clean. Tell the American people. This is what I want to do, and here's my timetable. I can't get it done because the following 10 people won't let me get it through. Let America know what's happening. And there's
Michael, I heard, and I haven't discussed this with Roy. I heard like the other day that Doge has been disbanded.
I read that yesterday.
yeah, it's another one of those issues where you've got great things happening, but then the implementation stage is being blocked by those who have been involved in the past. And quite frankly, even all the way to the office of the presidency. I made this comment on the president couldn't disagree with me. I hope to God we haven't got to the point in this country where even the office of the presidency can no longer swamp because the swamp has become so powerful and has such ability to control and to assassinate. There have been plenty of assassination attempts in the past that they dictate what happens. If we've got to that point, we're in deep trouble. It's time that we recognize that this corruption is deep, it's serious, and it's going to require a full effort to make sure we get it exposed.
The deep state has been around since Jefferson's time. I mean, we had a guest who came on and explained the parallels between the persecution against Donald Trump and the persecution against Aaron Burr, who everybody hears this and that about him. He tried to start his own country, and a lot of the accusations were false. And he died a pauper. And his father is the one who founded Princeton University. So you're talking about a family that had money, yet he didn't have the billions that Trump, thank God, has to defend himself. So he wound up dying penniless and in disgrace.
The old adage, the only thing for righteousness, excuse me, for evil to prevail is for good.
Yeah.
And
But
sometimes,
too many good men are doing nothing.
yeah, we're at that stage. So I think, unfortunately, I think we're getting to where people are awakening to it and trying to do something about it, but we haven't gotten to where we.
I think the flyover country, which the cities, the big cities, so all the big shots, the educated elite and everything put down, they are the only thing that may be our salvation against Islam, against Democrats, against RINOs, against all our enemies who are inside our country, destroying us from within. I think that those hillbillies, if you want to call them, rednecks, whatever you want to call them, are the only thing that may save the nation. because the people in the cities, they're too cowed because their neighbors are all Democrat. I mean, I call this the view from here behind enemy lines because I am behind enemy lines here in New Jersey. I consider
I would
myself
agree with
behind.
that statement.
I wouldn't even be here if it weren't for my family, children and grandchildren. Otherwise, I'd be long gone. Then again, that's not good because I wouldn't be here to fight.
It's going to take all of us together if we're going to succeed. I believe we still have the ability to do so, but I'm
I
encouraging the
think so.
president, don't don't start backing down a little bit on us now. We need a strong president to lead forcefully. I realize they're challenging everything. Sometimes you guys got to tell them, look, this is what the Democrats would do. We're going to do it anyway. Okay. You
Yeah,
don't like it, go to court. And in about 10 years, once the case comes up, we did something wrong. We'll apologize then, but we're moving forward to do the right thing. Sometimes
that's
it
the
takes
weakness
leadership.
of the Republicans. They're spineless. They want the media to like them. The media is not going to like them no matter what they do or what they don't do. So just go ahead and do what you have to do for the American people and screw the media. That's it.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's what we need.
Well, I think the MAGA movement was more than just a political movement. It was awakening on an ethical level. It was the reminder that you're not just a person walking on the earth. You're a citizen, and you are a citizen of the United States in this case. And this same problem exists in other countries. They're having the problems in Ireland, in Scotland. They're having these problems all over the world, where people are being managed in such a way that they no longer have affiliation with their traditions, with their core beliefs, and essentially anything that it has any kind of vintage is maligned and seen as a pariah. And so the thing is that again, on an ethical level, on a spiritual level, this has even been like Charlie Kirk would talk about this as a battle of good and evil. Okay, that this is not just simply people managing their personal wealth and power. These are individuals that are involved in an unholy crusade. And so the thing is that I don't buy that 100%, but I have to admit, as a metaphor, it seems to fit. So what I do believe is that we need to get back to some of our values and stop assaulting children with perverted concepts of sexuality, of purpose, of community, and stop maligning the very history, including their parents, that spawned them. I mean, are you telling me that the essence that brought you into being is no good? What does that do to you? And then you wonder why people are committing suicide, going crazy, and especially the trans people who have been duped into believing that they can transform into something that modern medicine cannot give them. And so they're just.
What about the feminists who have betrayed the women by making it possible for men to compete in women's sports? You said you were a weightlifter, right?
National champion, 84,
Did you
85,
say national champion? In when?
84, 85, and 86.
Cool.
Olympics. And
Oh,
of
you
course,
were
I
in the
tell people
Olympics.
we don't talk about that because the Soviet Union at the time, remember it was still the Soviet Union, they boycotted Los Angeles. So
Oh,
it didn't mean much, but
well, it meant that a lot anyway. But did you see what happened at the world's strongest woman championship was yesterday? I think.
yeah, it was a transgender man. They blew the
Yeah,
record.
but I heard that he only beat the woman by 1 point. I don't know if that's true or not. But
That's what I heard.
what
He's a
happened
pretty
was
sorry man.
No, but what happened? Yeah, he was a mediocre athlete to begin with. The association that runs the thing said they weren't aware of his of this athlete's. They
Oh,
call them athletes, not man or woman, of his situation, his sexual situation. They weren't. They didn't. Otherwise, they would have stopped it before or during the competition. What they've done now is they've stripped him of the title and given it rightfully to the woman who came in second place.
as they should have. I thought it's interesting what you had, Michael. I tell people this as well. If I could go in for just a day, if I had the ability, and clean up, it wouldn't make any difference tomorrow if we don't go after youth. And you said something that was very poignant. We have allowed our educational system to become anything but an educational system. And it has destroyed the lives of our generations of young people time and time again. You see it now in Chicago, the largest public school district in the country, who has now said we have a transgender LGBT curriculum. When the parents came out to oppose it, they told them, you don't get to opt your children out of it. You don't get any input. This is the way it's going to be. You don't have any choice. Leave. This is the kind of attitude that we have in our public education system now. It's time to tear that down.
It's, I mean, Gen Z is divided. The girls, unfortunately, are following in the footsteps of the girls before them, in the generation before them, which is leftist lunacy. But the guys are turning away from that and making up their own minds, and they're much more conservative than the last two generations have been.
Well, thank
So
God for that,
there's
because
hope.
the last two generations are trying to make our men, women, feminizing them. It's a
Yeah.
good thing we had no major conflicts, because we'd have gotten our behind whipped if we'd had any major.
well, I'm a tabletop game designer. Okay, that's one of the things I'm doing, and so I spend a lot of time with young folks. And there was this young woman, couldn't have been more than 22, 23, and she was talking openly with another woman, and they were talking about they didn't want children because the first 3 or 4 years, are horrible. It's terrible, etc., etc. So I spoke up and I said, actually, you got it backwards. There is no parent in the world that will tell you those first 3 years aren't precious. And they looked at me like I was from the freaking moon. Okay. And the thing is that there, like you said, the feminist thing, but there is this lie machine, this whatever it is generating all these terrible ideas that that are destroying motherhood. And the thing is that they say that pro-choice, or should I say, an abortion is a woman's right, and maybe it is, but the thing is that they won't even entertain the possibility of having the child. They won't allow people to talk. If there have been situations where people were praying outside, not even engaging these people, and they got arrested for it.
Across the street, they're praying and they get arrested.
They got it. Yes, got it. As a matter of fact, they had the thing in Texas where they passed a law where they wanted the 10 Commandments in every school, and the thing is that it was shot down because they said that might create Christians.
Yeah, an activist judge. I mean, they put that law in, started implementing it. I think about a month later it was challenged, and an activist judge struck it down. Which gets back to what we were talking about. We've got to change our education system. We've got to change our judicial system. These activist judges, that was never their role. They can't legislate. They're supposed to be simply interpreters and enforcers of the law, and they don't even have the ability to enforce. Quite frankly, I mean, they don't have their own police force. I laugh when a judge says something because, quite frankly, how's he going to enforce it? Who do you think is going to apply? He doesn't
It's
have.
kind of it's kind of
Maybe
funny
of
that
enforcing.
it's unacceptable because there were it might produce Christians, because you are implying that Christians are extremely powerful and you can't handle them, which is right.
If they were that powerful, then this discussion wouldn't even be happening.
A true Christian is a force to be reckoned with. Now, I'm not a practicing Christian. I do believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ, but the thing is that when you look at some of the truly like who's that guy in Germany, Bonhoeffer? Oh, wow, what a man! That guy in Nazi Germany was hitting him, and then you had Sister Teresa and all these other folks. Yeah, yeah. If a person of high integrity, of honor, goes ahead and follows their spirit, that's unstoppable stuff, dude. That is legend.
Well, I will tell you this: with shows like yours, I have great hope for the future. I know we're in the middle of the process of of dealing with it now, but we couldn't even get to this process. We didn't have opportunities that y'all are presenting. I thank you for it,
Thank
America.
you. Well,
Don't,
thank you.
don't
And
forget to tell everybody how to get to your site and
we'll put it on our website.
Y'all send me something, and we'll put it out on ours, and it'll go out to y'all.
Okay. And we can expand our reach and reach more people if you can tell your buddy President Trump to come on the show just for 5 minutes.
I just want you to know, Roy didn't think you would be any fun to talk to. I'm the one who was responsible for you being here.
Oh,
I
yeah,
love
right.
it. I love it. Y'all have a blessed day. Thank you so much.
He calls me the guest whore. Okay, because I'll take
Well, thank
anybody
you.
and everything. As long as you have something good to say,
God bless you. God bless America.
Oh. Just one more quick question. The New York Muslim police, do they have the authority to stop me and detain me or whatever? They do.
They'll give them full police.
Oh my God!
Don't walk around.
We need
not walk
reciprocal
around
carry.
with a BLT. Do not walk. Get arrested for a BLT, man.
It's coming.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to carry bacon on me and throw it as I run away.
We got to cut it down.
Okay. Thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. You've been a pleasure to talk to and a fountain of information. And good luck with everything in the future. I hope your influence keeps expanding.
Oh my God!
And please say hello to President Trump for us, if nothing else.
We will do that. We look forward to it, and we'll have to do it again.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode of The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines, and we will see you again next time. So long. All right. Let's see.
You got to let them